South Korea shifted strategy away from testing and tracing to self-monitoring, diagnosis, and at-home treatment. This comes as the daily virus tally hit a fresh high. The government confirmed those with COVID-19 and in quarantine will be able to vote in the March 9th presidential election after regular polling closes. On the ice, in the air, and on the slopes, Team South Korea's first goal to outstanding performances. We have the latest from Beijing 2022. Hello, it's good to have you with us. I'm Daniel Che here to bring the latest. Let's begin with our top story. South Korea reports another daily high in new COVID-19 cases. The vast majority of people who are infected will be able to recover at home without monitoring or special treatment. From next week, the unvaccinated and those at high risk can get their shots from Novavax. Choi Min-jung starts us off.
South Korea on Thursday reported an all-time high of 54,122 new cases of COVID-19. This is up more than 4,500 compared to the previous day. On week, cases jumped by 31,000, a 2.4-fold increase. While cases continue to soar due to Omicron, the number of critically ill patients remains stable at 282. Meanwhile, the country distributed an additional 551,000 doses of the Novavax vaccine on Thursday. The first batch of nearly 300,000 doses became available in the country on Wednesday. Another 294,000 will be released on Friday. The vaccine is produced by local company SK Bioscience and is a protein subunit vaccine using a more traditional method. Experts say there are fewer concerns about the side effects. Starting next Monday, the vaccine will be administered first to those at a higher risk. Reservations for unvaccinated people over 18 will begin on the 21st, and they will start getting the vaccine on March 7th. They can also get the shots earlier if they reserve leftover vaccines. People who haven't had a booster shot due to side effects from the first two doses are also eligible, but they will need confirmation from a doctor. South Korea's new system for at-home treatment began Thursday. Around 90% of new cases are asymptomatic or have mild symptoms, meaning the majority of people infected are recovering at home. While people over 60 and those in their 50s who are at high risk or taking COVID-19 pills are monitored by their hospital, those under 60 must look after themselves. They won't be subject to regular monitoring, but they will be able to get non-contact treatment by calling a local hospital or clinic when they experience symptoms. Home treatment call centers will operate 24/7. However, authorities on Thursday said these people should be taken to hospitals if their oxygen saturation drops below 94% or if their body temperature remains above 37.8 degrees Celsius for more than 72 hours. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
A parliamentary committee is looking to allow people infected with COVID-19 to cast ballots in person on Election Day. The bill will be put up for a full floor vote next week. Lee Kyung-eun has the latest.
National Assembly Special Committee on Political Reform on Thursday approved a bill to extend voting time to 7:30 p.m. from the current 6 p.m. During that extra 1 hour and a half, those infected with COVID-19 will be able to cast their ballots in person. Currently on Election Day, voting is possible for those in self-isolation, but only for those who did not test positive. They can cast their ballots after regular voting ends at 6 p.m. for 1 hour until 7 p.m. Those infected are not eligible due to the mandatory 7-day self-isolation rule. The problem is, with the country's daily infections expected to top 170,000 by next month, nearly 500,000 people could potentially find themselves unable to vote. To prevent that from happening, both the ruling Democratic Party and the main opposition People Power Party had called for parliamentary efforts.
I call for bipartisan efforts to come up with a measure to ensure the voting rights for those under self-isolation, both infected and not infected.
Voting is the most sacred of rights. We must swiftly come up with a measure that people can trust.
The two parties initially suggested extending voting to 9 p.m., but it was revised to 7:30 p.m. in a compromise with the National Election Commission, which said the current 1-hour extension till 7 p.m. would be enough for all those in self-isolation, infected and non-infected. The finalized bill will now be submitted to a plenary session for a vote and will likely be passed without controversy. 이경은 아리랑 뉴스.
The four major presidential candidates will hold their second televised debate this week. Lee Jae-myung of the ruling Democratic Party, Yoon Sung-yeol of the main opposition People Power Party, An Chul-soo of the minor opposition People's Party, and Shim Sang-jung of the minor Progressive Justice Party. The second session will begin at 8 p.m. Friday local time and last 2 hours. Participants are expected to discuss a wide range of issues, including the youth policy and COVID-19 response measures. Turning our attention to the Beijing Winter Games now, South Korea finally clinched a gold medal as short track star Hwang Dae-heon dominated the men's 1500-meter race. Han Sung-woo has more on this and other Olympic updates.
A scenario that couldn't have been written any better. It was short track speed skater Hwang Dae-heon, who was controversially disqualified in the men's 1,000-meter semis, that took home South Korea's first gold medal of Beijing 2022. Hwang skated out course in Wednesday night's 1,500-meter finals to take the lead with 9 laps to go and held onto it until crossing the finish line, roaring in triumph. Compatriots Lee Jun-seo and Park Jang-hyuk, skating with an injured hand, finished 5th and 7th, respectively. Half an hour earlier, the women's team, driven by Choi Min-jung's late spurt, made it to the finals of the 3,000-meter relay, where they'll be competing against China, Canada, and the Netherlands on Sunday. The relay semifinals took place after Choi and Lee Yoo-bin also advanced to the quarterfinals of the 1,000-meter, slated for Friday. The finals are scheduled for 9:40 p.m. Korea time. Meanwhile, figure skating's 2022 Four Continents men's champion, Cha Jun-wan, finished 7th in Thursday's free skate competition to end his Olympic singles campaign 5th overall, with a personal best of 282.38, including his flawless 4th place short program. Cha fell on the ice hard attempting his opening quadruple toe loop in the free skate, but still finished 10 spots higher than he did on home ice 4 years ago. It's only the second time a South Korean has ever finished among the top 5, after Kim Hyun-ah. The Olympic crown ultimately went to the USA's Nathan Chen, who received a total score of 332.6, combined with his world record-breaking short program. Contrary to Cha's improvement from Pyeongchang 2018, defending Olympic champion in the skeleton, Yoon Sung-bin finished his first 2 heats in 12th place overall, 2 spots behind compatriot Chung Seung-gi. Despite good running starts, mistakes sliding down the track resulted in both recording times of over 2 minutes and 2 seconds in total, making it tough for South Korea to medal in the event after the remaining heats on Friday. Taking place an hour earlier on Friday will be the men's 500-meter heats in short track speed skating, featuring 2018 silver medalist Hwang Dae-heon and Lee Jun-seo, followed by the semifinals of the men's 5,000-meter relay. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
Korean-American snowboarder Chloe Kim clinched gold for the U.S. in the women's halfpipe on Thursday, making her the first woman to defend the Olympic title in this discipline. Despite falling in the final 2 runs, her flawless performance in the first run awarded the 21-year-old a score of 94 points. That's 4 points higher than runner-up Keral Castella of Spain and 6 points ahead of Japan's Tomita Sena, who won bronze. Kim won the gold at Pyeongchang 2018 when she was just 17 and became the youngest female Olympic gold medalist in snowboarding history. Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo are engaging in a flurry of talks due to heightened tensions on the Korean Peninsula. Defense chiefs from the three sides talked about the regime's recent missile tests. Their nuclear envoys are scheduled to meet as well. Yoon Jung-min shares with us what was discussed.
South Korean Defense Minister Seoul spoke over the phone on Thursday with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Japanese Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi, during which they reaffirmed trilateral cooperation against North Korea's recent missile tests. The defense chief said North Korea's ballistic missiles were destabilizing to regional security and a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Minister Seoul emphasized North Korea's missile tests are direct and serious threats, adding South Korea has deterrence in place. The three defense chiefs agreed to hold an in-person meeting at a future date. In a readout, the Pentagon said the U.S. commitment to the defense of Korea and Japan is ironclad. Meanwhile, nuclear envoys of the three countries are gathering in Hawaii for talks on Thursday local time. Before the meeting, South Korea's nuclear envoy Do Gyu-duk emphasized that now is a key time for the Korean Peninsula. Arriving in Hawaii, Do told reporters that it's a critical point that could determine whether the peninsula will see a cold winter or mild season. He said the situation is volatile and very sensitive, adding he will discuss the measures for engagement at the meeting. Last month, North Korea tested missiles 7 times and signaled a possible resumption of nuclear and ICBM tests. Experts say the three countries agree on the importance of the matter, but it's also true that they have different approaches, and it remains to be seen what message they will come up with.
Japan has most hardline policy, and South Korea still emphasizes the dialogue with North Korea. On the other hand, the United States still do not consider North Korea issue as a top priority.
On Saturday, an in-person ministerial meeting will be held in Hawaii involving South Korea's Chung Eui-yong, Antony Blinken from the U.S., and Japan's Yoshimasa Hayashi. Seoul's Vice Foreign Minister Choi Jong-gun talked over phone on Thursday with his American counterpart, Wendy Sherman, and discussed those upcoming meetings. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
The South Korean government decided to provide additional support to companies that suffered losses from the shutdown of cross-border exchange programs. There are plans to provide about $48 million in the form of loans and grants. Some of these businesses had factories at Kaesong. Others are involved in tours to Mount Kumgang. Seoul's Unification Minister expressed hopes this will be of some assistance to them and ensure the government will do its best to help resume related operations. Tours to Mount Kumgang was suspended since 2008, and the Kaesong complex was shut down in 2016. With just 3 months more left at the top office, President Moon Jae-in pointed out Seoul is still willing to hold talks with Pyongyang without any preconditions. However, the South Korean leader admitted the outcome of the March election could be a factor in whether such events would be possible during his term. Kim Da-mi shares with us his remarks.
President Moon Jae-in says Seoul is willing to hold an inter-Korean summit in any shape or form Pyongyang wants, noting it is not desirable to set prerequisites for dialogue. During an interview with several global news outlets, including the Associated Press and Reuters on Thursday, Moon expressed a regret that the 2019 U.S. and North Korea Hanoi summit ended without a deal, but said the most rewarding accomplishment was the shift to dialogue and diplomacy instead of military confrontation. Moon further pointed out that Seoul and Washington have agreed on the content of the end-of-war declaration to be presented to North Korea. But he did acknowledge that striking such a declaration within his administration could be a push, and said the outcome of the March presidential election will have an impact on whether an inter-Korean summit would be possible during the remainder of his term. President Moon also said Japan's recent push for UNESCO heritage recognition for the former mines on Sado Island is regrettable. They are linked to the forced labor of Koreans during World War II. While calling on the need for sincerity from Japan, Moon pledged that the Blue House will continue to cooperate with the international community to resolve the issue. Also mentioned in Thursday's interview was an emphasis on continuing with the Korean Peninsula peace process, the Korean New Deal, and the target of net zero emissions under any administration. Calling the country's overheated real estate market the heaviest burden during his administration, Moon expressed a regret that the large-scale public housing supply should have been implemented sooner. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
The National Security Council discussed ways to deal with Japan's push to get a number of mines on Sado Island listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The move spurred opposition from Seoul's government as Koreans were subjected to forced labor by Japan during World War II. The attendees at the NSC meeting emphasized Tokyo should faithfully fulfill its promises with the international community based on correct historical awareness and develop bilateral relations in a future-oriented manner. 2021 was a record-breaking year for South Korea in trade as exports continued to rise. Data shows the country posted its biggest current account surplus in 5 years. But there were concerning trends with the prices of energy and other materials rising as well. Hwang Dae-heon helps us look beyond the digits.
South Korea recorded a current account surplus of more than $88 billion last year, the biggest in 5 years. This is according to Bank of Korea on Thursday. Despite the global spread of the Omicron variant and global supply chain disruptions, exports of major items such as semiconductors, petroleum and chemical products, steel, automobiles, and mobile phones have increased to most regions.
It's also meaningful that the transportation balance recorded a large surplus thanks to the increase in freight rates and the recovery of shipping company capacity. Also, the income as a result of continued overseas direct investment and securities investment increased significantly.
While the tally seems positive, it did not meet the central bank's previous forecast.
Last year's surplus was about $3.7 billion short of our prediction, and it was due to a larger than expected decline in the goods surplus caused by rising raw material prices and surging import growth since the fourth quarter.
The balance of trade for the month of December came to a surplus of more than $6 billion, around a half the surplus recorded the previous year. This came as imports of raw materials jumped more than 60% on year in December, with crude oil prices soaring more than 85% over the same period. Other accounts, including services, primary income, and capital and finance, also recorded surpluses. The BOK also added the persistent spread of the coronavirus at home and abroad, global supply disruptions, volatility of raw material prices, and uncertainty over China's economy as potential risks that could weigh on this year's current account. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea's ride-hailing services now officially include self-driving cars. From this week, people in Sangam-dong can use these vehicles to move about. Shin Young went to check it out.
There are many ways people can get around in Seoul, from subways to buses and taxis. But from Thursday, visitors to Sangam-dong have a new option: self-driving vehicles. From last year, Seoul Metropolitan City has been test running its first autonomous vehicle hailing service. Finally, from this week, it has started commercializing this service to visitors in the Sangam-dong neighborhood of Western Seoul's Mapogu district. There are a total of 4 driverless vehicles available. They all follow 2 designated routes, picking up and dropping off passengers at specific locations around the neighborhood. Right now, I'm calling a driverless vehicle to go to DMC station. If you see right here, I can choose where I'll get on and off using this app called Tap. The app then calls the nearest vehicle. Regardless of how far you go and how many people you're riding with, each ride costs 2,000 won, which is a little over $1. The car moves by itself at almost all times. It's able to sense traffic lights and recognize pedestrians when turning right.
안녕하세요. 저는 A킷입니다. 면허 딴 지 한 달 정도 됐어요. 초보 운전자라 해서 언제까지나 겁먹고 집에만 있을 순 없죠? 여러분을 안전하게 모시는 베스트 드라이버가 되기 위해 저는 오늘도 열심히 달립니다.
But a safety driver is also at the wheel to take over in case of an emergency or when going through a child protection zone. As Thursday was the first day since the service launched, not many people knew about it. But those who did said they were willing to try it out.
I had no idea that we could use these cars, but I like to try because it'd be convenient to move around Sangam-dong with this service.
At first, I was a bit scared that I might end up in a car accident, but I think it'd be worth a shot with my friends because it's fascinating to be in a car without a driver.
Seoul City is aiming to expand the number of self-driving vehicles to 12, including one driverless bus, by the end of December. By 2026, the city hopes to run more than 50 autonomous vehicles in Sangam-dong alone. Shin Yeun, Arirang News.
Connecting the past and present through cutting-edge technology. Through 5G and more, several spots in the Gwanghwamun area have been filled with immersive content for citizens to enjoy. Kim Bo-kyung zooms in on this development.
An icon of Seoul City. The imposing main gate that leads to Gyeongbokgung Palace is Gwanghwamun Gate. It shows the history of the Joseon dynasty, but also has much more to offer.
Gwanghwamun Square is no longer just a historical heritage site. Several spots nearby combine the latest technology, including AR, VR, and 5G, to create new experiences.
As part of efforts to cultivate the immersive content industry, Korea Creative Content Agency and the Culture Ministry have introduced a project called Gwanghwa Side, or Age of Light.
In 2019, we commercialized 5G technology, but many wondered about its usage. Immersive content is where this 5G can readily be utilized. And as the Gwanghwamun area represents Korea, we chose this site to fill with content to let more citizens be immersed.
A total of 8 pieces of immersive content using cutting-edge technology are on show across the Gwanghwamun area, with only the last one waiting to be unveiled on February 25th. One of the most eye-catching pieces is Gwanghwa One, a media art exhibition that uses 5G technology. Its ultra-high speed and hyperconnectivity enable visitors to enjoy real-time scenery of places across the country such as Gyeongju City and Wondogun County.
I'm a member of a hanbok-wearing traveling group and got to know about Gwanghwa Side there. I made a reservation and enjoyed the content. It was surprisingly nice and it made me feel somewhat relaxed.
Artificial intelligence is also being used. Gwanghwa In presents AI figures programmed through deep learning. They provide information on the cultural heritage and tourist sites around the Gwanghwamun area in 4 languages.
경복궁에 대해 알려주세요.
경복궁은 조선 왕조 제1의 궁으로 1395년에 태조 이성계가 창건했어요.
In the center of the square is an attraction ride that feels like it belongs in an amusement park. A panoramic screen with 4D features, riders can enjoy dynamic content on the past, present, and future of Gwanghwamun. Aiming to serve as a milestone in boosting the VR, AR, and AI content industry with the backdrop of a symbolic and historical site, Gwanghwamun invites citizens into an immersive world. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Temperatures are forecast to rise again with another mild day on the cards for tomorrow. The capital region will be a tad warmer than today with highs of 8 degrees Celsius. Southern parts of the country, including Gwangju, will be even warmer at 12 degrees during the daytime. But milder daytime conditions will bring wide temperature gaps. It's easy to catch a cold under such conditions. In fact, the common cold index is currently standing in the high to very high category. Please take extra care of your health at this time. More dust particles will be flowing in from overseas. For tomorrow, central regions, including the Seoul metropolitan area and Jeollabuk-do provinces, will see dust levels standing in the bad category. Morning lows are range from -8 to 4 degrees nationwide. Seoul will start up at -2 degrees. And daytime highs will be 1 to 3 degrees warmer than today. Seoul will get up to 8 degrees. Daejeon 11, Gyeongju and Busan will reach 12 degrees. Frigid conditions are forecast to return by the middle of next week. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.
Find the ways of Taekwondo within yourself. The mind that honors respect and kindness. The valor that fears no challenges. The perfect balance